Welcome to another episode of Pistons of Fury. In this episode, we are starting on the hot side fabrication for our turbo system on the LS engine in the 1966 Dodge Coronet station wagon. Alright, so when we last left off, we got the motor mounts built. That was a big undertaking. So where we are now is the engine is partially assembled just so I can check clearances on everything. And it's placed in the car, the driveline angle is correct. The transmission is actually still being held up by some 2x4s and a ratchet strap, but it's in the right position, so I'm just at a place where I need to figure out how I'm going to build the brace for the transmission tunnel and also the mount to hold the transmission in place. So that's kind of one project that I have to do. The project I'm going to be tackling today is actually modifying the hot side. So starting on the exhaust hot side, because we got a few new parts in the shop, and I'm going to show those to you now. Okay, so this is where we are. A few new additions and some interesting things going on here. So again, like I said, we're working on the hot side today, and the key to this whole operation, and actually the whole project, is this guy right here. This is a On3 7875 turbo. Those numbers mean something to most people. Maybe I'll do a breakdown of what that is, but I think there's enough turbo videos on YouTube. So basically this is 3-inch V-band output. This thing's good for up to 800 horsepower. It's pretty proven. It regularly does that on the forums, so LS1 Tech, the turbo forums, so on and so forth. You can see, I think Denma, Matt Happel, did a version of this or used this in his early Fairmont, so it's definitely proven to make some power, so that's cool. We're gonna have to rev this thing out to make big power, but this will be a fun daily driver turbo for this engine. So what's gonna happen now is I have my one header pulled off, just sitting on top of the car. Basically what I need to do is come in here and I need to hack up these headers. So these are $120 eBay headers. I'm not, they're nice. I assume they're leak free. But the problem is that this is a 4.8 liter engine, and these are 1 3/4 inch collectors going into a full 3-inch V-band. Now, Hot Rod actually used these headers on its, I think it's the Minnie Mouse or what's Super Chevy or that whole magazine organization. They're all the same. But anyway, they used these headers on a 5.3 junkyard motor, and they made, something like 700, 800 horsepower. So I know they can do it, but I'm tuning this thing and I'm building it for the street. So I actually want some response. I want the turbo to start working before 5,000 RPM. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off, and I also need, these are a little long, they come a little too far out. So I need to hack about 3 inches off of each collector. And for the driver's side, I'm going to reduce that down to 2 1/4. So I have this nice reducer, which is a nice even contour, so it shouldn't be too abrupt for the airflow. And what that does is it makes sure that the exhaust coming out of this side of the engine maintains its high speed velocity, so it spins the turbo faster and you reduce turbo lag. So from here to the turbo over in this general area, we have 2 1/4. And I also picked up this Vibrant 2 1/4 flex coupler. It's actually pretty cool how these things work. I never really thought about it. So there's like an inner sleeve and there's an outer sleeve, and it's held together by this this ribbed metal. So it'll actually flex like that. And the goal of that is basically so when the exhaust expands, you don't break your welds. Which brings us to the next thing. So I got some 0.23 welding wire. So this is really thin. What I have in my welder right now is 0.35 or 0.035, and it's kind of thick. Builds up a lot of heat when you're doing exhaust, you blow through easily. So I'm going with a smaller diameter wire. So I have to rerun this through my welder and get that set up, but this should be good. So the other variable in this whole thing is that my headers are stainless steel. These two things are stainless steel, but I will be using regular MIG wire and regular 75-25 MIG shielding gas. And probably some mild steel tubing. So I'm doing a mix of stainless and mild. This stuff is a little bit tougher to weld. It should weld okay with this standard MIG wire, but I'm just gonna have to be really careful not to put too much heat into the welds because it can make this stuff really brittle. So it'll be interesting. It's like a little science experiment. We will see how this stuff holds up. Oh, and this guy is stainless as well. So goal for today is to get the headers chopped, get things tacked in place. Not this guy because I'm still waiting on the rest of my pipe, but basically I want to get the turbo ideally mounted and positioned. So that's going to kind of fit right in here, and I'll go into a little bit more in a little bit when I get to that. So first step is chopping the shiny headers. So. update time. Where we're at is we have the turbo mounted. As you saw, I had to basically come in here, cut my header. If I had done a little bit more planning and hadn't been so hasty in that, I could have actually cut at the angle I needed, so I had to do a little pie cut that I cut out of a piece of stainless 3-inch 90-degree elbow, which is actually for my downpipe. So anyway, did that, migged it up, used the kind of the overlaid tacks method versus continuous bead. You know, I guess partially for looks. I really just didn't want to burn through the pipe. When you do a continuous bead, sometimes working with metal that you haven't worked with before, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. So went with the beads. I actually fully welded this this header right here just because this turbo is super heavy and I didn't want to stress tacks that were sitting there. So placement is pretty good. I clear this pulley here. I think this pulley might be plastic. I may have to move to a metal one. It is right pretty close to the cold side, but I know it's not really cold when it works. So we'll have to see. So yeah, that's where we are, which is awesome. And then got some new parts when I was eating lunch, taking a break, so I will show you those in a minute. But the next thing we're going to do is take a stab at fabricating the downpipe. So I've got a 90-degree 3-inch bend. I need to cut that and see if I can clear this inner fender here. See how tight of a radius we can go with that V-band. If I can do it, I will weld that up, and then we'll have the makings of a downpipe. And once we get past that, we're going to move over to this other header and do some work on that. Alright, so we're going to move on to plan B, because as you guys probably saw, I do not have the right radius for this to work. I mean, it fits in there, but the V-band doesn't line up. The radius is too wide, so I'm coming over here, I'm contacting my inner fender apron. So, that's a no-go. But, the good news is I think they make tighter bend 90-degree radiuses than this. So I know they make a little donut, so I'll get what I need to work this out. I just don't have the parts today to do that. But this is basically going to be the way this thing flows. It's going to come back over here and then down and shoot right through that hole right there. And the way the rest of the turbo system is going to work is I'm going to have a 2 1/4 inch pipe coming down crossover. That's going to pop up right under here on the bottom of this collector. So I'll be cutting a 2 1/4 inch hole, doing a V-band on the bottom of this guy. So they'll basically merge right here into the turbo, out. And then the final piece will be the wastegate. That's going to pop up right here, and it'll have a straight shot, and I'll merge it back into the exhaust. So this will be full exhaust, nothing out of the hood, nothing, no open wastegates, nothing ridiculous. But anyway, kind of at a stopping point on this exhaust, so we're going to flip over to the other side and start modifying that other header, necking it down to 2 1/4 from 3-inch. Okay, so wrap up for the day. Last thing I did, or that you saw me doing over here, was basically welding up this reducer and welding on the V-band, or the half of the V-band, to this header. Yeah, so I gotta say, you know, it's obviously not the best welding in the world. Stack tacks. I don't know if that's what it's actually called, but this metal welds really nice. You know, we'll see if it holds up, we'll see if it cracks or leaks, but yeah, pretty happy with how this turned out. Had some issues with my chop saw. My disc broke on it. It kind of butchered this piece, so my angles are a little off here, but I can correct that when I do the rest of the plumbing, so not a big deal, and you won't even notice when it's all put together. Right here, in all its glory, we've got the turbo. Still have this pipe kind of stuck here, so I need to look into some short radius options. Hopefully I don't have to do anything silly like a whole bunch of pie cuts here, but I might, so we will see. Yeah, hopefully I have some time to work on it tomorrow, but this has been some pretty good progress. I've been kind of planning out all these little pieces for a while, so I'm glad to finally be able to get to do it. So yeah, we will see what we can get done tomorrow. Alright, so came back into the garage, and basically I think I'm just going to call it for this episode. I'm still missing some pieces from my crossover tube, so I've got some 2 1/4 inch pipe coming, multiple bends, U-bends, J-bends, like combo bend things. So I'm going to be actually using those to fabricate the rest of my crossover setup. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to get into the wastegate install, and then we will flip over to the cold side. So plenty more to come. This is getting interesting. We're getting into the fun stuff, and eventually we'll have to tackle the not fun stuff like the wiring, but that is way further down the line. So next up, we're going to be wrapping up the cold side, or not the cold side, the hot side, and yeah, basically just waiting for some parts to get in, and then we're going to get back on it. So thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.